When we made our McDonald's Spicy Chicken McNuggets, you were praise hands emoji. Then we ran out, and you were streaming tears emoji. Now they're back, so you can be grinning face with sweat emoji. Order ahead on the McDonald's app.
And get Money Mouth Face emoji with 2 orders of crispy, irresistible 10-piece McNuggets, spicy or classic, for just $6. Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Single item at regular price.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, managing editor of the National Newsroom at Lee and co-host of the program with Bruce Miller, editor of the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter, and of course the director of this program. You're the star and director, right? Is that how it goes?
I think this is setting me up for something.
3, 2, 1, action.
Yeah, there we go. There we go, right?
Yeah.
No, I went to Monkey Man this week, and I thought, how many actors are directing their own movies?
Yeah.
And it's impressive. I mean, this summer alone, we're getting Ethan Hawke, Chris Pine, John Krasinski, Pamela Adlon, Jake Johnson, Dolph Lundgren, Mario Van Peebles, Jerry Seinfeld, Tony Goldwyn. You know, it's Jesse Eisenberg. These are all just this summer that we're getting those kind of films. And I think it all boils down to control. They've been in movies probably where they didn't feel like they could say anything, or, you know, they weren't able to call the shots the way they wanted to. Look at Bradley Cooper. It's like now we think of him as a hyphenate all the time. If he doesn't direct his own movie, is he going to be in it? Well, then it's probably as something in Guardians of the Galaxy, not as a major star in the film. So I think it's an interesting kind of switch. And I don't know exactly when it happened, because we can go back to silent days when actors were their own directors. Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, all those kind of, they were just kind of, okay, and now I'll stand here, and then the building collapses around me. And they knew what they were doing. The biggest example we had in the early days was Orson Welles, where Orson Welles did Citizen Kane, and it had, he did everything with that film. But in recent years, like 50s, 60s, and 70s, it wasn't that prominent. And then we got into the 80s, and then we started seeing a rush of them. Woody Allen kind of cracked the door with Annie Hall, which, by the way, beat what movie as Best Picture?
Oh, was that Rocky?
Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars. Okay. Yeah, I knew it was an action movie, and I couldn't quite remember.
Star Wars is not a Best Picture, but Woody Allen won for Annie Hall. And then just shortly thereafter, Robert Redford won for Ordinary People. Warren Beatty won for Reds. Richard Attenborough won for Gandhi. I mean, these were like step right away. And so it became the kind of the age of the actor as director. And now you look at the names and it's like, this is interesting. Let's see who's in that mix. And from last year, Bradley Cooper and Greta Gerwig, two really good examples of that. It's, to me, what do you think of that whole process? Do you think it's a good thing, or do you think it just gives too much power to one person?
It's a mix. I think, the one, and you mentioned it, and it was one that I wanted to bring up early in this, is Warren Beatty with Reds, because that was a film that it's a bit of a controversial topic. I mean, he was covering it was a movie about an American communist, right? Jack Reed, journalist, witnessed the Bolshevik Revolution. It's a great movie, and it's a long movie. I mean, that's like, it's about 3 hours, but it feels like 12 because it's very in depth, but not 12 in a bad way. It's just like you're in it, and you are in that thing neck deep, from start to finish. But it's also, and he was nominated for Best Actor, Best Director, Best Picture, Best Screenplay. I mean, it was like a clean sweep of nominations, but he only won for
director.
For director, right? So, but it felt like this is a passion project. Maybe this is one that isn't necessarily going to get made by studios without a little bit of a nudge, and he's big enough where he can kind of push it through and maybe use some of his own money to finance it. So from that perspective, I think it's good. If you've got something that you want to do, a story that you want to tell, but you don't have, in your younger days, you might not be able to do this type of film, but as you get some Hollywood clout, then you can do these things. So I think from that perspective, it can be good.
And then they'll also have, all right, I'll do one for you if you let me do one that I want to do.
Right.
And so there's a kind of, I don't know, tit for tat kind of philosophy they have behind some of those. But normally they're doing very big kind of epics in those, in that kind of period of time. It's like, you really are trying for something with this. You know, Mel Gibson.
Oh, yeah, Mel Gibson, sure.
Braveheart, that was a huge film. And Clint Unforgiven, and that was a big, $1 Million Baby, which he also won the Best Director prize for, was not that big. But I think he felt a little more comfortable then that he could do those kinds of things. Ron Howard, A Beautiful Mind, that was it had Oscar bait written all over it. You know, so it's interesting.
Well, and I do want to follow up too, like Clint Eastwood also, it feels like, because he obviously for a very long time was, whether it was Dirty Harry or the Westerns, you know, he was an actor and he was kind of, he almost typecast as kind of this, you know, like a certain gruff.
He was digging himself out of a hole.
Yes.
Because
and
all you were seeing him as was the man with no name, or, you know, some kind of, make my day.
Right. Go ahead.
You know.
Yeah. He went ahead and became this director, and the movies he does, these aren't just like little pictures. I mean, you're talking about, you know, Unforgiven, Mystic River, $1 Million Baby. He had obviously the companion, the letters from Iwo Jima and Flags of Our Father, which was, I have mixed opinions of those two movies because I thought one was better than the other, but it was such a fascinating approach of telling kind of like a single story from two different perspectives using two different movies. And I think the brilliance too of Clint Eastwood is he's acting in so many of his films, he's writing so many of his films, he's directing so many of his films, he's also composing the music.
Right.
I mean, he's doing everything. He's like, I'm a one-man operation. I'm just gonna, and he's like 90 something years old. I mean, the dude is just, can't stop him.
From what you hear from people who've been in his films, he doesn't suffer fools. He does not say, okay, we'll take, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but, you know, Warren Beatty will do something 40, 50 times. And Clint is like, no, we got it. It's fine. We'll move on. And so he isn't a costly director. He's a very efficient director. And then you see him, they throw things at him that you think, that's not really good. Jersey Boys, I thought it was awful. And they're actually remaking Jersey Boys. So we'll see how somebody else does with that same property. Clint is now considered, I think, a director first because they would like to get him behind that camera because they know it'll bring in an audience. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, he's delved into politics, so, you know, he's kind of stirred up some mixed opinions now. But I think, you know, you got to put that stuff aside. I mean, he is one of the preeminent Hollywood everything of the last 50 years.
Of that list, most of them just kind of backed away.
Yeah.
They did not really follow up with something else. Now we've got Kevin Costner coming out this summer with a 2-parter. It's I think it started out as a 1-parter, and they said, we can't have Dances with Wolves again. You can't have 4 hours for this thing. Make it 2 parts, and we'll see what happens. It's called Horizon, and it's a Western. And you can see where it would, you know, come on, look what he did with Yellowstone. As the star of Yellowstone, he proved he was still box office. I think then he said, well, you know what? I could make my own film and I don't have to worry about these other people. I'm going to do this. And he did Horizon. And we'll see what happens now when the first part comes out. I think it's in August. On that list, he's one of the only ones that have really kind of come back. I mean, Mel will do things, but Mel is in a whole different pool of directors.
And it's interesting, too, because you'll see like a Clooney who did, there's years where it feels like he's both acting and directing in the same year. You know, he'll have multiple projects and show up on the radar in the same year.
Well, and then you don't know the one that he's directing. It kind of just flies under the radar. And then, wait a minute, what was this one? And that's the one where he gets the attention. I think he could easily transition into doing that full time and just give up the acting. Or if he did the acting, it'd be just a little bit part. He'd be like one of the guys in Oppenheimer. But you look back at Kenneth Branagh with Belfast. He directed. You didn't see Kenneth Branagh in there, and it was a great film. Jordan Peele he backed away from acting. He won an Oscar for his screenplay.
Well, and he's a fascinating one too, because he went, it's like polar opposites of work. He's a comedian, and now he's delved into these like horror movies. So it's, yeah.
Regina King, who decided not to be in a film that she was directing and almost made the final cut for Best Director. That was One Night in Miami. She had many other nominations, or the film had other nominations that year. So she's one that you look at and you think, yeah, you know what? She could be switching loyalties and we'll see her as just a director. I think she's very talented in that respect. Laurence Olivier always did it. He would do something on stage and then turn it into a film, and nobody thought anything different of that. So, but this Monkey Man, can I delve into Monkey Man now?
Go for it, yeah.
Dev Patel, if you remember him, Slumdog Millionaire, and I think it was Lion was the one I really loved, where he was this kid trying to find his family. He would be an unlikely type to be a director, because you always see him as these characters that are kind of discovering everything, and he doesn't seem to have the force. But in this film, it is every bit John Wick that you would be thinking. He did a lot of interesting things. He shot some of it on a cell phone because the cameras didn't work. He broke his arm or his hand in the process of making this, so he still had to perform in the thing and direct the thing. I think it moves too quickly for its own good, but it's a house on fire. You watch it and you think, you know what? He has talent. He really has talent, especially since he's bringing in the world of India, Indian culture, and what's going on there, which hasn't been touched on with other kinds of films by big directors. And you get a chance to see what that world looks like today, not something back, 50, 100 years ago, but today. And I thought that was very telling. It was like, I didn't realize this is the India that you're coming from. He shows real promise. I think that's one that if you haven't looked at, you've maybe seen it advertised and you say, Monkey Man, should I go to it? Yes, but just know that he has a lot of subtitles and the typeface is small.
Oh,
that's
yeah. Oh man,
how's that
for
for
the readers?
Yeah, and I think it gets to be the edits are so quick. I think he also shoots in the format of somebody who watches a lot of films on either his phone or on an iPad, because there's a lot of extreme close-ups.
Interesting.
And I don't know that you need that all the time. I think you need a mix of things.
Yeah.
But it's one of those fascinating ones that you can dig in and say, you know what, let's pull it off and see what's there. And John Krasinski from The Quiet Place, he has a new one this summer.
Okay.
I think there's another one. I think they get into a corner as actors, because you wouldn't think of him as anything other than Jim for a long time, unless he pulled himself out of that corner. And there are actors who are still in those corners and they can't pull themselves out.
When we made our McDonald's Spicy Chicken McNuggets, you were praise hands emoji. Then we ran out, and you were streaming tears emoji. Now they're back, so you can be grinning face with sweat emoji. Order ahead on the McDonald's app.
And get Money Mouth Face emoji with 2 orders of crispy, irresistible 10-piece McNuggets, spicy or classic, for just $6. Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Single item at regular price.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because you can see if you do get kind of that typecast, and you can use directing to almost pivot to something totally different. And you look at somebody like a Ron Howard, who was known as a child actor, and then of course with Happy Days, but he hasn't acted in, when was the last time he was really acting? 40 years ago?
If he does anything now, he just does like a cameo.
He does, right. It's just like these little bit appearances and stuff. He's a director. I mean, I think most people, when you think of Ron Howard, it's no longer Happy Days. I think it's more director who brought us Apollo 13 or The Paper or whatever. I mean, he's done so many movies and so many acclaimed movies too. I mean, that's what he's known for. Even like a Sofia Coppola, who her acting career, she was never, she got by on her name.
Nepo baby.
Obviously, you're not going to see her in Godfather movies. That's not her best moment, Godfather 3, but the work she's done as a director has been tremendous. And then you even look now too with Greta Gerwig. I don't know if I've ever actually, like, she's acted in so many movies.
Yeah, but they're very independent films. And she, as an actress, is not necessarily a character. She's more of a below the radar kind of actress.
Right. But her directing, I mean, like Lady Bird, such a great movie, and then of course Barbie was a fun romp. You can't go wrong with that. You don't have to be this Hollywood superstar necessarily to pivot into directing.
You know what I think the secret is for them? Writing the screenplay.
Yeah.
Because if you've got something that you could present to somebody, well, then they'll go, well, yeah, that's good, but we only got $2 to make this on.
Yeah.
Who am I going to find to direct this? And they go, well, I can do it for $2.
Right.
So, so there you go. This last year, I talked with Ron Howard. I think we might have had this on the show.
We did. Yeah.
Where he talked about when he was growing up. He wrote this book about his life growing up as a child actor. And he said that really there was no drama. There was nothing there that would make a good film. So as a result, he spent most of his time just shadowing people on the set of the Andy Griffith Show. He would watch the cinematographers. He would ask questions, and they were very welcoming in order to say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll show you what I'm doing. And he learned that way, and I think that's what really helped him get that foot in the door. But if you look at these other ones, John Krasinski is a good example of that. Writing is your way in the door to be able to get to that next step, which is directing.
Jon Favreau.
And Jon Favreau taking these kind of little dink parts like in Iron Man.
Right.
You think all of a sudden, look what that created. He's like a force at Marvel.
Yeah, and of course Star Wars too. I mean,
Star Wars.
His 90s roles, Swingers, that was one of his big roles, and yeah, he's kind of hopped and skipped in so many different ways, but it's his writing, his directing, and he's attached himself to these huge franchises now, and has got tremendous clout.
Now, if you remember, Iron Man was not all that when it first started. Was he one that you'd put on the top of the list to be, the right-hand man? No, but he took the job, and the job led him to making those kinds of suggestions that, people go, this guy knows how to do things, and he knows how to make a lot of money. I think you have to be, in addition to talented in another area, willing to take some chances on your own. Jerry Seinfeld is directing this year and starring in a film about Pop-Tarts.
Oh, really? I didn't know that one.
And Unfrosted. It'll be on, I think it's on Netflix. Here's an example of, okay, what are you doing with your money? What are you doing now? What are you wanting to do that you haven't done? Because really, he could be like what I want to be, a Powerball winner. Just sit at home and do nothing. That could be Jerry Seinfeld because he's got enough money to be that, right?
Right, yes.
But I think he wants to try and test himself and see what more there is. And it is based in a true story. So here's his chance to see how well he can play in that field. And it could be a great opening for him.
Well, and at this point, too, what else is there left for him to do? I mean, he was on one of the great sitcoms of all time. I mean, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Just what a bizarre thing that was for however many seasons. And I wish it would come back because that was such a fun thing to watch. But, and then he reappears on Curb Your Enthusiasm and showed up on the finale. Well, no spoilers here. We won't give that one away.
Did you like the ending?
Oh, yeah, it was fun.
I think that was a double down by Larry David.
It was, absolutely.
Where he just wanted to say, okay, you know what? I'm doing it again.
I'm doing it again. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's what I got out of that. But Jerry has nothing to gain by doing anything.
No.
Jerry can sit at home like a Powerball winner and just do nothing.
Yes.
But I think creatively, because we'll see him around. He's always on the circuit around doing stand-up.
Sure.
And observations about his family. And it's interesting to hear, how older his kids are and what all that kind of entails. He doesn't have to do that. And if you suddenly say, well, you know what, that was really bad.
Yep.
I don't care. I'm Jerry Seinfeld. And so I think something like this, if he is taking a risk, it isn't because he wants the money or he wants the attention. He's gotten all of that. but it could be that one thing that you go, you know what? He's got another career just waiting for him. Who do you want to see? Are there any actors you'd like to see direct?
Honestly, I don't know.
I think Emma Stone has a real potential. She's been around these really kind of creative people, and I think she's absorbed enough of it so that she could then pass it on to somebody else. And even when you saw that little kind of TV show that she did, where it was like a reality show, I think that showed that she was willing to take a risk, and I think she could be one on that list. But you notice that there aren't a lot of women who are directing.
Right.
And I don't know why that is, unless maybe they just don't want to. Maybe it takes a different skill set. I don't know. But you see it more likely that a man would direct, and it might be just because he gets a chance.
Sure. You know, another interesting one, just because I'm trying to think, like, did he really direct much, was De Niro. He directed A Bronx Tale, which is really good, and it was such a good movie, but he never really, did he really ever follow that up? I mean, that was kind of it for him.
And it might be that he just didn't like it, because I do think there's a lot. It's like working in our business, where there's somebody at you all the time, and they all want an answer. Maybe sometimes he just wants to concentrate on one thing instead of being a jack of all trades.
Right.
So it's fascinating. Chris Pine is coming out with one this summer.
Wow.
That'll be interesting to see, right? Ethan Hawke has directed before. He's coming out with one. Zoe Kravitz is coming out with one. Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how this all shifts down. But I just think about it and think about actors that you like. What is it about them that could translate? Like, could Leonardo DiCaprio do it? Or is he so tied to these, hardcore directors that it would be just a carbon copy of what they do?
Yeah, and maybe that's why De Niro never really, he was too attached to, guys like Scorsese, and he did A Bronx Tale, which is kind of in the same gangster genre that he had always been doing, and maybe he just couldn't quite get past it. Maybe that's the same thing with like a Leonardo DiCaprio. He just, he just does his thing.
For some of them, I think it's just a matter of having that checklist and going, I worked with so-and-so. Yeah. I worked with so-and-so. So that's maybe their ranking of this kind of situation. But direct, that old line, but I really want to direct.
Right.
Maybe that isn't a goal. I think all it is just making sure that you're protecting yourself so that you don't look like an idiot if it does turn out a little poorly.
You know who else, and it was kind of sad when we lost him, was Harold Ramis. There's another guy that, he was so well known for movies like Stripes and obviously Ghostbusters, but he was a screenwriter, and I think like he's a guy that you can, you instantly think of him as like, Egon from Ghostbusters or in Stripes and a few other of those types of movies, but he was more of a director and a screenwriter than anything else. And all the classic comedies that he did over the years, it was a real loss when he passed away.
Sidney Pollack, who won the Oscar for Out of Africa, was incredible in Tootsie. Shouldn't we have seen him in more films? But it's like I'll do what I need to do. Whatever. And you see with Albert Brooks too. It's kind of like what I have to do to be able to get this done. There's my idea.
There's your idea. We'll get
I hope it spurred something in you, and you say, you know what? Let's think about these, and I'll come up with my list.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Well, anything else on the horizon?
Well, we've got some good ones. And I'm going to give you a little tutorial if you haven't. Have you been watching Ripley?
I have not, no.
You will not turn it off. You will watch all 8 episodes at once.
Really?
That's how engrossing it is. Yeah. Black and white. It is not like The Talented Mr. Ripley at all. You know how that was kind of creepy, kind of greasy, but really lovely to look at? This is black and white, and it's like a Hitchcock film that if you don't remember any of that stuff from the Talented Mr. Ripley, you'll be in. It's all in. It's all in. And then I've been watching the whole season of Hacks. Are you familiar with that, with Jean Smart, and where she plays a stand-up comedian, and she's
familiar with it, have not seen it.
Okay. Well, so it's entering its 3rd season, and there was a big break there because of the strikes, and Jean had some health issues and all that. and it's back. And I'm happy to report that it is extremely fun. And they have a lot of guest stars that you go, oh, look who's here. Look who's here. I mean, you can see they've hit that stride now where they can just say, we'd like to have so-and-so on. And that'll be coming out just in this next month. But I've been trying to tick off these ones that, and for the life of me, I can't stop after 2 or 3 episodes. Usually you can, but with these, I got to see how it ends. I got to find out how it's going to end. So those are new ones that are coming on the horizon. And then we're getting a lot of big films too that we'll talk about as we get along.
Yeah. So we'll be talking more soon about the summer movie season and the schedule and what looks hot and what's maybe not so hot.
I know I have Dule Hill. He's doing a series where he looks at the arts around the country and he talks about his own journey. And you remember him from West Wing. And he was also in the recent reboot of the Wonder Years. He has fascinating approaches, but he'll be coming one of these weeks where we talk with Dule.
Well, that would be great. And then, you can ask him if he remembers me because we went to high school together.
Right.
So.
That's right. I got that. I've got to get that on my books. We'll make sure that Terry loved him. I always thought he should direct.
And on that note, thanks again for listening, and please be sure to come back for another episode of Streamed and Screened.
When we made our McDonald's Spicy Chicken McNuggets, you were praise hands emoji. Then we ran out, and you were streaming tears emoji. Now they're back, so you can be grinning face with sweat emoji. Order ahead on the McDonald's app.
And get Money Mouth Face emoji with 2 orders of crispy, irresistible 10-piece McNuggets, spicy or classic, for just $6. Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Single item at regular price.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.